Welcome back to Lucore Automotive Services. As you can see, it's an engine teardown day. This is a little bit of an odd episode, as this is a motor that we know is broken. We just want to see why it's broken. This is a VQ35 out of a Nissan 350Z. Many years ago, before we did any kind of YouTube stuff, we had a gentleman bring us a twin turbo 350Z that we then had to fix because this motor was bad. And we're going to figure out exactly why it was bad, what good parts are in this, and then we're going to list it up for sale, or at least some of the parts. But yeah, we're going to see. This is a built motor, and we're going to find out what happened. If you're interested, follow along. So one of the problems you often run into when you're buying something secondhand that somebody else has already worked on is you have to kind of take them at their word about what's been done and what hasn't been done. In this case, our customer purchased what looked like an absolutely gorgeous 350Z that already had a twin turbo kit built on it, and it had an engine problem. He purchased it, brought it home, and noticed that the engine problem was way worse. And we ended up having to put an entirely new engine in the car, new long block, new heads, all of the bells and whistles. We transferred over the turbo kit, and it became a hellacious car. Unfortunately, we don't have a ton of footage of it because it was pre us doing this stuff. But there are some pretty amazing pictures of it.
There's a time lapse on the Facebook page of it.
And there's also probably some tickets that have been had in this car, because when he eventually sold this car, it went to Detroit to a young gentleman who was just learning how to drive a stick and decided he would do that in a 500 horsepower 350Z. And then modified it further and put it on corn, and it made considerably more power because the motor we built for this car was way more capable than 500 horsepower. And I believe now that car is now in California, so it's out there still misbehaving and tearing up tires. So the question at this point in time is what exactly failed and what good parts are in this thing that were put in there from the guy that originally built this car. So Rich is going to clearly go do all the work here and tear this thing down, and then we're going to discuss what we find.
Rod bearings look good. Main bearings look like heck.
Derek, you want to catch pistons?
What's that? I want to catch pistons?
Yeah.
Sure.
Those are forged. They look forged. Rod bearing's starting to go. But those pistons look like they're, I mean, they don't have much runtime on them. They're not, well, at least that one's not scuffed real bad. So somebody might want the pistons and rod assemblies.
So what did we find when we tore this thing down?
Found a mess.
So a question we're going to get asked right off the rip is, why did Derek make so much noise with the garage door as soon as I'm talking? A question we're going to get asked is, why did we put a motor in this customer's car? We'll get to that. So what did we discuss? What did we find? What failed? Well, let's talk about what we found first off. Seems as if Mr. Customer did have actually a pretty good bottom end. It seems as if somebody maybe had done a crate motor kind of thing or a built motor from some manufacturer. You're going to find a lot of times in the industry that there are companies that will make a 700 horsepower package, a 500 horsepower package, and they are house packages with their own pistons or their own whatever. Now those pistons and those rods and those things are made by one of the major manufacturers. They're just a house brand which doesn't have their label on it. So what we found in this thing when we tore it apart is exactly that case. This is one of the rods and pistons that came out of that. And it's interesting because we can see that the air compressor is going to kick on while I'm trying to talk. And the piston is not a stock piston that you would normally get in a VQ. Normally speaking, you have kind of a weird looking valve relief package on this, and this actually has a dished piston to decrease compression as well as the valve reliefs. You also have definitely not stock Nissan connecting rod, and it has a definitely not stock set of rod bolts on it. So we did some homework, and it seems as if this is probably a house brand piston built by JE. The piston seems to be absolutely identical to JE pistons. And these rods are built by Carrillo. So somebody did it the right way. We also know that the fasteners are the same type of fasteners that Carrillo uses. If I pull one of these things out of here, you may or may not be able to see this, but these are WMC6. Can't see it, but that's what these are. So Carrillo rods, JE pistons, somebody did this the right way. The crankshaft, which I'm not going to carry over to you, is in decent shape. It could be turned. It could honestly maybe even be polished, and it would be functional. So rotating assembly wise here, we're doing pretty good. Now the question is, what failed and why did we put a new motor in this car? Well, we've said this many times, maybe not necessarily to you, but to Mr. Customers. It doesn't matter how well you build something. If it's not tuned correctly, if it's not maintained correctly, none of this matters. You're going to blow this thing up. In this case, we spun the center main bearings. And you can't really see this, so I'll pull the camera and let you look at it, but they are badly damaged. And is that fixable? Yep. It sure is fixable. The process to fix this is very time intensive and also very money intensive. So could you fix this? Yes. In order to be able to do this, you're going to have to disassemble the block, take everything out of it, send it off to the machine shop, have them do all their stuff that they need to do, clean it, all the fun stuff after that, then give it back to us, reassemble the whole motor, and ready to rock and roll. If you haven't noticed, that sounds like a lot of time. And time is money. So, this block is worth not much. We got a brand new entire long block for this car for $700 with stock stuff in it. Tore it apart, put all the good stuff in it, put it back together again. That $700 is very well spent, because the amount of money you're going to have in machining this thing and getting it set up correctly, and then it's still not going to be that good of a block. You're going to end up with worse product than just getting another one that's in good shape, taking it apart, and putting good stuff in it. So that leads us actually to an interesting question, which we will be dealing with in a future episode, is how much does it cost to build a motor? We're going to give you some real honest answers. We've got my Pontiac that we've got a receipt for. We've got the Mopar we've got receipts for. We've got the 2J that's in the Supra we've got receipts for. We've got the VQ35 that we've got receipts for. We've got a Subaru motor that we've got receipts for. So we're going to talk to you guys about exactly what happens, how expensive it really is to do a built motor. Because a lot of people get into it and they never really know how much they're going to end up spending, and it gets real expensive real fast. The last thing we want to see is we don't want to see people's projects die. We don't want to see that. We don't want to see people get involved where they run out of money and their project sits and they can't finish it, or they end up having to sell it off. So we're going to be real honest with you and show you exactly how much some of this stuff costs, how much it costs to do some of this stuff. Maybe it's something you guys are interested in. That will be coming in a very near episode. So what are we going to do with this stuff? Well, sell it. This is going to go in the recycler. That stuff is going to get sold. So anybody out there interested in a set of Carrillo rods and JE pistons? Maybe a factory Nissan crank that just needs a polishing? They're for sale. Will you give me $350 for that $350 crank? Anyway, there you go. What happened? You didn't tune it correctly and it blowed up. Sorry, it happens. That's life. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this. We got a little messy today. We'll see you on the next one very soon. Please do drop us a comment in the comment section below. Always click on that subscribe button so you're here for import stuff and muscle car stuff and race car stuff and all kinds of other stuff. Because that's what we do. We'll see you next time.